What was this side? Yeah. Maybe it's the other side. I got it. I got it. Did it come up on the screen? So I'm giving a class here for the very first time. So if I fumble, please forgive me. I'm not a very ordinary speaker, in all honesty. It's come up there? Okay, Hariva. So let's start with Jai Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. I don't have it. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjan. Yashodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Gopal Ji Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Gopal Ji Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya 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 Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Hare Krishna everyone. Dando pranams to you all. I want to thank Nilmani Prabhu for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight on our topic. And tonight's topic for discussion is the Bhagavad Gita chapter Om Ajnana Timirand, and you can all decide with me please. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatamitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Pancha Kalpa Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So like I said, tonight's topic for discussion or the verse for discussion is Bhagavad Gita chapter number 4 verse 9 4.9 Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvata yatvadeham punarjanma नैति मामेति स्वार्जुना जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेति तत्वता त्यक्त्वदेहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति स्वार्जुना जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेति तत्वता त्यक्त्वदेहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति स्वार्जुना. Anyone? कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेति तत्वता त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म इति मामेति स्वार्जुना. Anyone? जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेति तत्वता देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति अर्जुना. One else, one final time. जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेति तत्वता देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति स्वार्जुना. Janma, birth, karma, work, cha, also, may, of mine, divyam, transcendental, evam, like this, yeah, anyone who, veti, knows, tatvata, in reality, tyaktva, leaving aside, deham, this body, punha, again, janma, birth, na, never, eti, does attain, mam, unto me, eti, does attain, sa, he, Arjuna, or Arjuna. Translation: one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord's descent from His transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th. It's not there? Temporarily. Oh. No, I know, Prabhu, I know. It's back. It's okay. Okay. The Lord's descent from His transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyotir of the Lord, is only partial, and there is the risk of returning to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body, and does not return the risk of returning to this material world. In the Brahma Samhita 5.33, it is stated that the Lord has many forms and incarnations. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anandim, Ananta, Rupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same. Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction. Although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers, as stated in the Vedas, Purusha Bodhini Upanishad. एको देवो नित्य लीलान उरक्तो भक्त व्यापी हृदय अंतर आत्मा. The one supreme personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in the verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the supreme personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can without a doubt attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tat Tvam Asi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the supreme, or who says unto the Lord, "You are the same supreme Brahman," the personality of Godhead, is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tam eva viditvati mrityum eti nanya pantha vidayate yanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the supreme personality of Godhead, and there is no other way to achieve this perfection. Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3.8. That there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply. So to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship, such empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world. But they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. I think some devotees need room there in the back. Okay, good, Prabhu. Some people need room there at the back. Okay. So this verse basically explains the divinity of Krishna's appearance and pastimes. Janma karma chame divyam. By knowing which we can go back to his abode. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyakta deham punarjanma naiti mameti swarjana. So let's look at this verse very closely right now, and then we'll get into some details also. Janma is, the reference here is obviously Krishna's birth, Krishna's appearance. Karma is Krishna's activities, Krishna's pastimes. When Vamana appeared in this material world, they looked like human beings. They appeared like human beings. That didn't make them, like conditioned souls like us into the 8.4 billion species. They're purely transcendental, and they're spiritual in nature. That is the very first line, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Now, the second line, Evam Yo Veti Tattva, who knows this fact that the Lord's birth, appearance, and his karmas, his activities are divine and not ordinary, will anyone who knows these activities, anyone who knows that anyone who knows the fact or the truth or reality that the activities and the birth of the Lord are divine. Now the third line, which is Tyaktva Deham Punar Janma Naiti. So after giving up this material body, that is what the meaning of this third line is. After giving up this material body, they don't have to come back to the material world. That's what it means. And finally, Naiti Mam Eti So Arjuna, that they will certainly come back to me. So, anyone in this material world, dear devotees, who gives up the body has to come back to the material world or within the circle of the 8.4 billion species, unless he or she is a devotee. Straightforward. But for devotees, this is not the case. Devotees who understand Krishna's appearance or birth and his activities are divine, are transcendental. They do not have to take birth in this material world again and they go back to his abode. That is what, in short, the explanation of this verse is. Now let's get into a little bit more details of the verse. So Krishna, the devotees, does not, his appearance is out of his will. He is not obligated or he is not under the influence of material nature. He doesn't belong to the 8.4 million species. We all know that. But again, he's not obligated. He is very mercy. Whatever I feel like, whenever I feel like, however I feel like, I will appear. And we don't have that privilege, do we? We give up this body and another body is ready to accept us, whatever that kind of body will be. So when does Krishna really descend or appear in this material world? परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. When dharma decreases, adharma increases. Dharma, when it decreases and when adharma increases, that is when the Lord appears in this material world. So what is dharma? Four legs of dharma, we all know: truth, satyam, cleanliness, shaucham, tapa, austerity, and daya, that is mercy. Satyam, truth; daya, mercy; shaucham, cleanliness; tapaha, austerity. Right? Now there are other virtues also of dharma. People are righteous, people are humble, they're forgiving, they have humility, like that. But tapaha, which is accepting involuntary conveniences for bettering their spiritual realizations. So these are basically the four legs and some attributes of dharma. Now when these decrease and adharma increases, that is when he comes to fix the problems or reverse it. So these are, why he reasons why he comes. What are his purposes of coming or descending? To protect the virtuous people, punishing the miscreants, and establishing dharma are the purposes of his visit or descent. So now going back to what I was saying earlier, dear devotees, that he doesn't appear, you know, uh, like people in the material nature do. He just comes at his will, mercy, whenever his will is there, and that is why it is his appearance is divine, not obligated to any material nature. So now let's talk about how his appearances are divine. We understood it is divine, transcendental. Okay, by the way, the meaning of transcendental in the English dictionary, and please don't quote me on it, but I think what it means is something that is beyond, something that is supernatural, something that is spiritual, not ordinary, right? That is something mystic, magical, like that you can explain. But please don't quote me on the exact definition, but something like this. So let's look at how why these appearances, when we're saying they're divine, why are they divine? So normally in this world, dear devotees, when kids are born to families, to couples, are born through the process of insemination. Okay, but when the Lord appears, there is no such concept, right? He appears. He appears. He just straight descends. In the case of Krishna also, you all know that Krishna first came into the heart of Vasudev. Then he gradually came into the heart of Devaki. Then he appeared as a 400 form. with his Shankar, with his Chakra, Gada, Padma. And then when his parents Devaki and Vasudev paid humble obeisances to him, then he took the form of a little child, Krishna. So he's not bound by any of the material ways of producing children. That is why this is divine. This is how it is divine. Where have we seen that a child who is born, newly born, has a yellow dhoti, pitambari, has anklets, has bracelets. Sorry, anklets are in the legs, but anklets, bracelets. Where have we seen that? We have not seen that. We see babies coming out of the mother's womb full of blood, and then they're cleaned and they have a hospital $1 blanket. But this personality is born nicely with a pitambari, with a are done paying obeisances, he turns into a little kid. Ready? That is so. This is divinity. So it is completely, like I said, supernatural. No, there's no. This is incomprehensible. Nobody can explain any of these things, can they? Someone just comes, someone just appears, and they're ready to go. That kind of thing. So, if he wants, he can be in his mother's womb also for 9 months, 13 months, whatever time he can. If he wants, he can come out of a pillar also. That is his wish, that is his will. Again, my wish, Meri Marzi, that kind of thing. So, which kid who is born is ferocious? Which kid who's born has hundreds of nails, right? Has his tongue sticking out full of blood, right? Ready to kill some person. No kid is like that. But that is how the Lord can appear. He came out of a pillar just to please his devotee. He came out and in minutes he killed Hiranyakashipu, right? That is divinity. Janma karma cha me divyam. His appearance was divine out of a pillar, and his activities are divyam too, right? So nobody can comprehend. They're not ordinary activities. Now, there's the same way. In the same way, when this personality comes out in any form, he's adorable. He's beautiful. He's very likable. Very, very loving. That kind of thing. He could be ferocious, like I said. He could be very small, sweet, and he can be any kind of form that he takes. He can also appear as a hog. He can also appear as a hog. Now, when we talk about a hog, the first thing that comes to our mind is filth, dirt, smell, right? So that is divinity. However, whichever form he wants, he can come. Now, the other beauty to this is how he comes, how he takes birth. And this is also classic example of divinity. He takes birth through the nostril of Brahma, Lord Vamana. He takes birth through the nostril of Brahma, Lord Vamana. Varaha takes the birth through his Brahma's nostril. Now, when a hog, picture of a hog, many of us are here from Indian origin. The first picture, when we close our eyes, of a hog. So pig is the baby, hog is the bigger pig, right? The first, क्या ध्यान में आता है? Pig को देखा या hog को सोचा तो क्या था? What does it come? That it is coming out of the gutter, it is coming out of a sewage, ठीक है? And as soon as it comes, the first thing is it does like this. So whatever filth is there, whatever dirt from the sewage is there, it just splashes all over, and nobody would want to be near that. Nobody would want to be near that. But when Varaha, this incarnation of Krishna that came in the form of a hog, He took a dip in the Garbhodakshayi ocean and he came out and did like this. He spilled water all around. All the planets got purified. This is divinity in Janma and this is divinity in the karma of Krishna. So, like that, there are so many activities, there are so many incarnations, right, of the Lord that we cannot even comprehend how, what, when, where, right? It is just His will and His, mercy upon humankind. So also now, see, when the Lord, like I said, when he came out of the Garbhodakshayi ocean, he just, shook his body. The droplets that came out purified all the planets, right? Like that. Can anyone imagine giving any, animal a bath and then, something like this happening? Never like that happens. So that is very special. You cannot, even you give bath to a human being, you wouldn't want to suck, drink the Charanamrit. It's only very special to the Lord. So when we give a bath to the Lord, we drink the Charanamrit like that. So every activity of His, every purpose of His, the entire presence of His is very auspicious and very divine. So then now the appearance of the Lord is also compared to the sunrise and sunset that happens. Okay. So if anyone has gone to a beach very early in the morning, they'll see that uh, like a ball kind of a thing, sun, which is in the round shape, like a ball, is coming out of the ocean, which technically is not coming out of the ocean, it is coming out of the horizon. What does horizon mean? When the sky supposedly is touching the ocean, because we can't see beyond certain distance, we think that it is coming out of the horizon where the sky is meeting the ocean, like that. So we see that the sun is appearing from there. And in the night, if you're still by the beach, you will see that it is sinking down there. Now, technically, the sun is not, it's not either born or nor is it dead. The earth is simply moving around the sun at a very, very specific speed. So there is a, so when the sun appears, let's say here in New Jersey at 5:30 a.m., right? In some part of the world, it is becoming night. And when the sun is disappearing at some part of the world, it is maybe becoming day here. So that is how there is an analogy given between the appearance and disappearance of the Lord and the appearance and the disappearance of sun. That is how. So when Krishna appears in this material world, he has appeared, and then when he disappears, he is actually going to some other planet, going somewhere else to display his pastimes, display his activities. So it's not that he's taking birth and then he's dying. He's simply appearing here, and when he's ready to disappear, he will take birth at another place, right? And likewise display his activities there, display his pastimes there, and go on to another place, just like the sun. So to summarize, basically these pastimes, they're divine, they're transcendental. They cannot be, no one can fathom it or understand. And like I said, the Lord can appear out of a nostril, it can appear out of a pillar, he can just appear to his parents, whatever. He has different ways of appearing, which are all beyond comprehension, they're all transcendental. And it's his wish, it's his, whenever he wants. Now, like the Lord's pastimes are also several, innumerable, like I just said. It said Hari Ananta and Hari Katha Ananta. Ananta means uh, no, no. Ananta means many, uh, unlimited. Ananta means unlimited. Hari Ananta and Hari Katha Ananta. So in Bhagavatam, Canto number 10, there is this story where a snake is trying to swallow or about to swallow Nanda Maharaj's leg, and is trying to swallow him. So all the Vrajvasis, they come and they start beating the snake. They bring torches of fire, and snakes are usually afraid of that. But Krishna just comes, and all he does is he taps the snake with his leg, and that snake becomes a Gandharva. That is his pastime. Who will go near a snake first of all? कौन जाएगा? कोई भी नहीं. कोई भी नहीं. Nobody will go. Especially if the snake is a python or whatever type, or a cobra, nobody would go. Only these big snakes can eat someone, can swallow a human, no? Right? But the Lord dares to go in front of the snake, just tap it with his, and he was only 9 years old. He's just tapping the snake with his leg, and that snake becomes a Gandharva. Similarly, there is another story where he touches a lizard. I don't know if he touches it, like touches, or like he has his leg touch the lizard, whatever the case may be, and the lizard becomes a Devata. Now, the other pastimes, many of you already know, all of you I'm sure know. Putana. Putana comes to actually kill him by feeding him breast milk. And Krishna sucks the energy out of her breast. Putana is a 12-mile long demoness. He sucks the energy out of her breast and he's killed. And I don't was it he was what, maybe a couple of months old or whatever, right? So incomprehensible. Again, his divinity of pastimes, like that Trinavarta, you all know the story, Damodar Leela. So all of these completely divine. That's why Divyam. So now we understood that all of this, yeah, his Janma is Divyam, his Karma is Divyam. Is there any other purpose that he comes here? Is there, other than displaying this Janma Karma, right? Is it his pastimes are divine and all that, transcendental and all that? He comes here to also establish Dharma. He's coming here to punish the miscreants, bless the pious, and establish karma. But he also comes here to be merciful to people like us. He comes here to establish, reawaken the dormant love within us. Now, when we hear these stories, when जब ये stories सुनते हैं हम भागवतम में, we read Bhagavad Gita, we hear these stories from Bhagavatam about Gajendra's moksha, about Prahlad's story, being thrown from thousands and thousands of feet, he's thrown into boiling water, he's thrown through a cliff, whatever it is, right? But the ultimate protection that he's still getting from the Lord, right? The ultimate protection that he's still getting from the Lord. So when we hear all these stories, Bharat Maharaj's story, when we hear all these stories, our heart melts. We want to hear more. That is the cleansing. Our heart melts, our heart softens. That is when that is why we should be hearing all these stories more and more, and that is why he has come to give his mercy in this form to us. So when we listen, Shravanam is the most important. I mean, I won't say most important. It's the first limb of bhakti amongst the 9 stages or the 9 limbs of bhakti. Shravanam is the most important. It's not Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. It's not Vishnu Smaranam, Kirtanam, Tasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedam. No, it is Shravanam. Right? We have to listen to these stories. We have to listen. We have to listen to classes. That will awaken the love. Because when we listen to these small stories, our heart melts. We want to know more. We want to know more. We want to surrender. We want to see how he is protected. See, we all live in such a vulnerable world today. We are all very insecure. We are all very vulnerable. So these they give us protection. They give us, that wish to surrender. Who's this supreme personality, and make us fall in love with him. Ultimate prema, right? This is how it happens. Rukmini had fallen in love with Krishna just by listening to the Brahman. That's it. Rukmini had never seen Krishna, but she had simply fallen in love with Krishna, just by smaranam, just by listening to the Brahmana. So, dear devotees, we should always make an effort in, and that is why that is his purpose also, along with establishing, dharma and all that. He has come here to, help us. He wants to give us love. He has already love for us. That's why he's coming now. He wants us to love him back, which is the ultimate goal of life, right? Which is, we devotees know that it's just not going back to Godhead. It's not going back to Godhead. It is love to Krishna, right? Love for Krishna, that is most important. So, like I said, he basically comes to help us to, motivate us, encourage us, inspire us to go back home, back to Godhead, to understand his, activities, his appearances like that. Tyaktva deham punar janma naiti. So Prabhupada explains that, when you serve a dog, Guru Maharaj also quotes him a lot. uh, when you serve a dog, the dog loves you. Similarly, when you serve the God, when you serve the Lord loves you back, right? So devotional service is very, very important. Otherwise, this whole cycle of just knowing, information gathering, there are enough scholars in this world to read this, mug it up, by heart it, and reproduce it. I know many such competitions that happen in India of by hearting these 700 Bhagavad Gita shlokas and just recite it, right? But do we understand the significance of the shloka? Do we understand what what Krishna is saying in it? Once we understand, there is meaning to it, and it helps us in our lives. So coming back to the verse, right? Now we've understood, like, I'm repeating myself, sorry about that, but we've understood the Janma portion, the Janma part, we've understood the karma. Tatvata, in reality, in fact, in truth, right? Now this also includes him. He is no different than his pastimes. He is no different than his name. He is no different than any of his activities. But we have to understand that uh, as a truth. We have to realize that. That is when this process of going back to his abode can happen. It just cannot, like I said, happen by gathering information and registering it. It has to come from the heart. Now this process, like I said, of devotional service, right? Because without devotion, the first part is not going to happen. It ain't happening. Devotion is a most important fact. Knowing is okay. With devotion, that's why the devotional service, it will happen. So during this process of devotion also, during this process of devotion also, we should not look at the end goal, going back to Godhead, no. It has to be a very sought after process. What does that mean? That we have to take enjoyment in that process every single day. We have to take enjoyment in that process every single day. That is when our day-to-day challenges are countered, right? This world, like I said, is vulnerable. There's fear in our heart. It is not a very good place to live now, especially in this day and age. So this devotional service actually helps us to counter these problems, and then it is a seamless journey. We just don't work towards one goal. We enjoy the process of the goal also. We enjoy the process of the goal very much. We're always looking forward to something, and that looking forward is to the end goal. But we practice it with such sincerity. Devotional service is any small thing to the biggest service of going on the altar. Right? Anything is devotional service, and that devotion is required. People plan Materialists plan, I mean, everyone plans. I don't want to say materialists. Materialists or devotees or whoever it is plan their retirement, right? So I have enough money when I'm 65 to lead a comfortable life. But we as devotees have to, I'm sorry, I'm digressing a little bit from the topic, but just in, sorry, I'm digressing a little bit, but just to make a very quick point. So when people plan for their retirement, devotees plan for the retirement, but they also plan how to lead a devotional life in their post retirement stage, and they look forward. Their goal is not only the retirement, their goal is beyond retirement and beyond this life, right? Beyond this life. Remember this. We are always planning for one step ahead, right? We are always planning. We don't want to come back to this dirty material world. We want to understand Krishna very well. We want to understand him very sincerely. We want to understand all of his pastimes, get submerged in it, soak ourselves into it, and just not worry about what after 40 or 50 or 60 or 70. We are worrying about our next life. So I have about 3 or 4 minutes left. I'll just quickly wrap it up and then we can take any questions if there are any. So these Lord's pastimes, are ananta, right? We can never get to know how many pastimes. We know this typical Dasha Avatar Stotra, and we know the 10 avatars of the Lord. But these incarnations are unlimited. Whatever we can know, we can soak into it, understand it, uh, sink in it, love it like that. But this is beyond imagination. Nobody can fathom. It is also very important, dear devotees, to not mistake or not misunderstand any of the pastimes of the Lord. So we are all going back again and again, again and again. If you can all relate to everything that I'm saying right from the beginning, it is all to the very first line of the verse. Janma karma chame devyam. At that very first line, right? Janma and karma. So the Lord, nobody should misunderstand the activities of the Lord as some mundane, as some sense gratifying activities like that. So Krishna had how many wives? 16,108. So I actually know someone who had said that what is there? I can marry one more. No, he's already married. Why can I cannot? I can marry one more. What is there? While his first wife is still alive and with him, he can marry one more. Why, if Krishna can do, why can't I do it? His question was, and he had asked this question to me and my wife. It's just actually a discussion, right? But they are failing to understand that 16,108 wives had 16,108 separate Krishnas with them every single day, every single moment. They were never sharing one Krishna with 16,108 wives. I mean, Krishna was not sharing himself with 16,108 wives. Never. He always. Who can do that? Who can expand into 16,108 selves? Nobody can. Right? Unthinkable. But he can do it because he had promised. He fulfilled that promise. Also, never to misunderstand, never to undermine. Undermine. Pandavas. Pandavas were on his side. Always, Pandavas were on his side. Pandavas knew his activities. Pandavas were surrendered to him. Pandavas never had an ego. Oh, you are in. One more minute, dear devotees. Sorry, it's already 6 o'clock. But Pandavas knew, right? Pandavas never had any ego. They knew who Krishna is. Never had any ego, or they were never, you know, insecure or anything. Right? They were always fine. But Duryodhan at the same time always had ego. Shishupal, example, right? What was their condition? Pandavas always surrendered to Krishna. They knew him, and they were always. I'll wrap up. I think it's already 2 past 6. Can I discuss one more point, one or two more points quickly? If that's okay with you. Huh? Hardly 2-3 more minutes. It should get over. Um, so we should never forget this verse. It's one of the most important verses. 8 important verses. Some say there are 50 important verses. Some say there are 100 and all the important verses and all of the verses. But we should never forget this verse. And primarily, I'll tell you why. So when Brahmaji had come, Shri Gaur Nitaya ki jai. So when Brahmaji had come and Krishna was along with his Gopas, he was feeding them laddus, they were feeding laddus. Some came out of Krishna's mouth, he fed them. Some came out of some came out of some came out of Krishna's mouth, they fed it to Gopas. The Gopas came some the laddus came out of their mouth, they fed it to Krishna. Now, how does the Supreme Personality ever behave like this? Right? Supreme Personality is like this, standing. We are very particular about our principles, tattva, principles. We don't budge on our principles, nothing. कुछ झूठा नहीं चलेगा, ऐसा नहीं चलेगा. But that Supreme Personality of Godhead is giving his portions of food from his mouth to others, and the others are very well accepting it. Why not? But they are also giving their food to him, and they are enjoying it, and he's relishing it. So when Brahmaji comes and he sees this, he said that this cannot be the Lord. He cannot be the Lord. Right? If he is the Lord, then I'm going to show something. Let's see. So he takes away the Gopas. Is it 4 or 5? Something like 5 Gopas, I think so. 5 Gopas and 5 cows. And he makes them disappear. He makes them disappear to teach Krishna a lesson. But he forgot, Brahmaji also forgot this verse. Janma karma cha me divyam. His activities are, no one can comprehend that. Brahmaji also forgot that these activities are divyam, transcendental, supernatural. He forgot that, and he had to come and ultimately say, Krishna, sorry, I forgot this myself. And he had to beg forgiveness from Krishna. Right? These pastimes, dear devotees, don't happen even in Goloka. Because he's always there only. Now, what is that for past? Some happen, but not all. Very few don't happen, but most of these, very few happen. Most of these don't happen. Right? So we are getting to know this, we're getting to hear this is an ultimate fortune. Right? A 7-year-old kid, a 7-year-old kid picking up the Govardhan hill. Which 7-year-old kid can even pick up, on a pinky and standing there for 7 days, 7 nights, right? Which kid can kill a demon as a couple of months? Nothing of this like that. So, anyways, some takeaways that I have. So Krishna's appearances are purely his mercy upon us, purely his mercy. His appearances and are divine. This knowledge is not enough, and it has to be coupled with devotion that I already told you. This can only take us back home, back to Godhead. So the word tyaktvaha, right? Tyaktva deham punarjanma, which is a fact, truth, reality, that devotion is required. That has always to be kept in mind. And finally, his love is not cheap, okay? His love is not cheap, nor easy. So we have to go through the grind. That's why mundane scholars, analysts, they're not able to understand or fathom any of his activities. And ego, we have to keep it aside. We don't need ego, even with the devotee community or devotee association. But when it comes to Krishna, our egos always have to be aside. Um, our desire to be like him has landed us here. So we have to, know that there is only one Supreme Personality. See, sometimes what happens is simple villagers, just one quick example, some simple villagers, they can do bhakti very easily. They just do Panduranga, 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 Panduranga. They don't care, right? There is no egos, there's no concept, there's no speculation, or you know more. How do I fathom this happening and all that? Just simply take, follow, and that's it, done. Rajvasis, they're very happy, but we want to dissect everything. So that should not be also the case. We should take everything. I mean, That is why this Bhakti Marga, right? We have to surrender ourselves. We have to surrender. It's okay to inquire. It's okay. That is how, we will learn. But dissecting every single fact, how this happened, may not help us. And we have very short period. We don't want to come back in this material nature again and again and go through the miseries of this material nature. So we realize this, and that's about it. Thank you very much for patiently listening. I took 7-8 minutes more than what I should have. But if there are any quick questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, Hare Krishna. Sorry, I went overboard.